been a hot minute since we watched a Steorg video. I do like Steorg, actually. Wuthering Waves is a wake-up call. Drop a preemptive like. Let's see what he's got to say. Let me know if the audio levels are good as well.
Okay, I think it's time to talk about Wuthering Waves and how this game is treating its players and how this game is an actual wake-up call. We all know that Wuthering Waves came out in May 2024, the game that has been...
Man, it's crazy how quick that's gone, isn't it? It's so wild how fast it's gone by.
Getting more and more respect from players, and the community of this game really loved the game, really loved the devs. The devs are having fun making this game, and players are having fun playing this game. But this is a game that I think a lot of other developers should learn from. A lot of devs these days need to learn a lot of things about game development, a lot of things about listening to players, a lot of things about making your game better and focusing on the right thing. And
I think he's spitting facts, really, across the board there. I agree. I think, not to be a glazer, but I'll give it a little bit of glazing here, I think Kuro are a very good actor in the gaming space and in the gacha space. And this goes outside of gacha. We need more good actors like Kuro, more companies that care about not just the game they're making and profit, but the players that play the games as well. Care that you actually see it as something that's valuable. I think that's lacking, and I'm not saying they're the only ones, but I think it's massively lacking in the space.
Wuthering Waves, despite the problems that had initially, is doing all of that and exceeding players' expectations, so let's talk about it. Wuthering Waves had a good first impression when we talk about the closed beta, but then when the game came out, it had some problems in terms of the optimization that made a lot of players expect.
Must admit though, no issues playing on PC, got lots of free stuff for it, so you know, can't moan.
Actually, mobile players have some problems with the game and how it runs, so people didn't have the ability to have fun in the game. So despite the qualities of this game, a lot of people couldn't play the game, couldn't have fun, so the criticism for the game was understandable from these people.
Fair.
But the thing is, Kuro Games made immediate action, and that's the first thing that we want to talk about, listening to players and taking immediate action just once a problem happens. And no matter how major this problem is, you try to listen and change your game to the better. So what the Wuthering Waves devs did in this series,
I think as well, it was good to see, obviously, don't quote me on this because I'm not a mobile player, but it seems that obviously the game had its issues on launch, but the patches just improved things in regards to performance. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but how many times have we seen it in the life cycle of a game where developer comes out, drops a patch that fixes a problem and causes 10 other problems? Again, not a mobile gamer, but it feels like that wasn't the case for Wuthering Waves. Fixes were made that you know, it fixed a problem. Okay, there's still other problems to fix, but we've dealt with that problem. It wasn't a case of like, right, we've plugged this leak, now there's 6 other leaks happening. Now you can't correct me because again, I didn't play on mobile, but it felt like that's what was happening. It was at least progression was definitely going in the right way, which, like I say, as somebody who's played lots of live service games and multiplayer games that have issues on launch, a patch comes out, fixes an issue, and then breaks the game, and that happens a lot in the gaming space as well.
Is immediately starting updating the game almost every day to make it more and more optimized, and in the same time giving rewards to the players that are unexpected, like a free 5-star character and a lot of polls. But that was just a temporary thing. They just gave something to stop the crowd and make the players a little happier, but the main thing that they did is that they gave a lot of promises to make the game better. And what were these promises? These promises are answers to questions that players are asking. This is the main thing, taking actions to criticism that players give. And when you do that immediately, players will be more and more comfortable playing this game and have more faith in your game. So 1.0 for this game was really hard for.
It's not only the recognition, it's the implementation, isn't it? And the implementation's definitely been there. But again, the recognition's a big part as well. Seeing developers in live streams when they're talking about new updates recognize these problems as well, which some companies love to just gloss over. Oh, we've had a great month, sold so many copies, we've got so many people playing, amazing, we're just going to progress from here, rather than actually being like, you know what, guys, we fucked up, man, and we're gonna fix that. It's nice to see.
for the devs because they were working so hard and updating the game almost every day to make it more optimized. But then what they did is that even with that hard work, they showed us that in 1.1 with Jinchi and Shanli and the new story, they almost addressed most criticism and most problems with the game. And not only that,
I still think this was my favourite companion quest. I really enjoyed this companion quest, I did. I think it was the best one, personally anyway.
they also improved on so
I will admit, I still haven't played Encore, so maybe that might change my mind, but it was my favourite one.
many other things.
I'm by
They
yourself
added
because
a lot
Jinx is
of
my favourite
features,
character.
They added new characters that are way better than any other characters in the roster. They made the game way more fun and also added a new area that it looks so cool, that has a new story with better storytelling that we had before and also better cinematics. So what we saw is that they are so dedicated, and even though the game lost some players, especially after launch, the 1.1 update was really good. They really knew what they were doing there. But then 1.2 came out, the update that has so many good changes, but it didn't have a lot of content to do. And it was
It was a filler
very
update,
long,
wasn't
but
it?
to compensate players, they gave one of the most broken characters in the game just for free. He just
I will say that's true, isn't it, really? Like, was Zhang Li Yao, people say it was for nothing, but I feel like it was almost because it was like, I know that, well, really out of the updates, I suppose that was probably the biggest filler update because it was after like a major patch and in between another major patch. And I feel like that's why we got Yao. Also because it was kind of like, he's in a way a pseudo rework of Cal Charo without being a rework. I know he's a different character, but you know what I mean? I definitely think that's a thing as well. But I think that's why he was free, wasn't it? Because it was like, oh, we've got a filler patch, which wasn't a terrible patch. It was a filler patch, but as filler patches go, didn't have a problem with it. It wasn't the best filler patch ever, I will say that. But, you know, it was a fight. It was okay. It wasn't nothing spectacular. It was a downtime. Or then they threw in a free character as well, which is kind of insane when you think about it. It was almost their way of going, sorry for the filler patch, here's a free 5-star as well.
came
And
out
an
for
insane one as well.
literally nothing. It's not the anniversary, the game didn't win any award, and we already got a free 5-star that is limited after getting like 3 free 5-stars
You
immediately
reckon?
just from playing the game. So even with this rough patch, the game stayed in a healthy state until we got to 1.3 and we started seeing another step up with the game. Like the game is keeping on improving and improving
New mechanics.
non-stop, and we got the story of Shorekeeper. The story that was very good and had so many good cinematics that people were
It was a good quest line, I do think. And the story was decent. I was just a little bit disappointed with some of the pacing, and I felt like Shorekeeper didn't appear enough in that companion quest line, should I say. You know, that's one thing I really liked about Camillea's companion quest. We spent a lot of time with Camilla, didn't we? So it felt a little bit better. Whereas, like, and I know it was kind of like save the damsel in distress kind of quest line, but I just felt like we needed a bit more time with Shorekeeper within that story, I do.
were shocked. Like, this is Wuthering Waves. Like, the start, if you compare the first story quest with this story quest in just 2 versions, it's like another game. They were working and they knew how to make the game better in terms
This
of
was a
story
sick
and
fucking little bit, this was, I
But
think, though.
not only that, if we take an example
run up to
of
the final
listening
boss
to
was
players,
really
we have
enjoyable.
one mode that is named Depth of Elusive Realm. A lot of people like this mode, but it wasn't like insane. It was cool. It was fun. And in the beta, I said that this mode is going to be
I've said for a while, I think, even though I wouldn't necessarily call it endgame content, but I guess it kind of fills a void in that sense. The Depths of Elusive Realm is probably the best mode in the game, isn't it, in my opinion? And I know some people will say, oh, it's not hard enough, blah, 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 but I think it's a really good mode and it's done nothing but improve. It's the closest thing we've got to like dungeon runs in a sense. And I can't wait to see something like that. Something that's a little bit like the Depths of Elusive Realm, but full on freaking dungeon systems. A W on this. They've been improving this rapidly. Every time it gets better and better, doesn't it?
the best mode in the game if they knew how to make it work, how to change it. And from patch to patch, they were changing this mode more and more. They were changing it, they were adding some things, and it was getting better and better. In 1.3, it was a good addition to change where you go and how you play. And also in this same version, they listen to players even more. For example, if we talk about holograms, the mode that a lot of people like because it's hard, because you cannot fight something like this in a gacha game. It's like Souls-like. It's fun, it's challenging. They increased the challenge even more with the Inferno Rider. They made it even more fun, but they didn't stop there. They added an event that has like the holograms, but it's co-op. You can play with other players and you can try the echoes with more variety, with unlocking new abilities and having more fun in an event. And I always do not like events in gacha games, but this event was so fun. Players had so much fun playing co-op, playing multiplayer in Wuthering Waves, and then doing some challenging content that has some good rewards. But the main thing that I want to talk about is 1.4, the current version of the game. They added Camellia, the new character that I already had to make a dedicated video for her because of how good the introduction of this character was, how well the
Souls-like is a reach, to be honest. Yeah, people do throw that around. I think it's just it's because within the holograms, the bosses have actually got patterns, which is where like the skill expression in this game comes into, rather than something like the Tower of Adversity, which is why I find the Tower of Adversity. I don't know, that's typical gacha stuff. It's a stat check. It's a DPS check, if you will. It's less of a skill check. It's more of a knowledge and stat check. You know a rotation, not get your stats up to skill going. You know what I mean? And have a semi-decent roster to be able to do it. Whereas the holograms are more about that was a skill check, if anything. It was you're getting different patterns, learning the timing, all that sort of stuff to defeat the holograms. But yeah, Souls, I agree. Souls-like is a little bit of a reach. People, anything that has any sort of difficulty curve now, people say Souls-like, don't they? Which it's not really fair.
Marketed this character because Kuro Games had a marketing problem with their previous game. People like punishing Grey Raven, but a lot of people don't even know about the existence of this game. But we all know that it has a good community that really likes it. So we all know that Kuro Games had a problem with marketing. But now they are marketing their game in the smartest way possible, and they are making a step up after step up with the cinematics. I thought the Shorekeeper cinematics were cool, but now we saw better stories and better cinematics, and of course the most hyped character.
Still don't think they're at the levels of like something like Zenley Zone Zero or like Ananta or NTE, but they're a lot better. They're getting up there, that's for sure. Hold up a second. Just got back. Sorry. I'm back.
Character in the game, they really delivered with her gameplay. And we all know the most important thing about Wuthering Waves is its gameplay. It's really good, it's really smooth, and with adding so many characters that are different and that have different gameplay mechanics, this makes it even better. And in 1.4, when we go back to the depth of Elusive Realm, the same mode that players said that it might be the best mode and they can improve on it, we had the best improvement for this mode ever. They added a whole story to this mode. You can play it as a story mode and change characters and have more POVs, but the most important thing is that they added a whole new mechanic in the game. You can use more than one ult.
I do really like the Dream Link, and I hope we do get these sort of events to test bed new mechanics into the game. I do think if the Dream Link returns, though, or ever becomes something more than what it was, it needs a little bit of work. I think it was a little bit underwhelming. It's good, but it definitely needs some tweaks to make it a little bit better. I think it needs to be thought out a little bit more and implemented a little bit better, but I did like it.
Ultimate with a character and then have two different ultimates together, blended together to get a new move. And they said that they are trying this in this new mode so that they might even make it a feature in the whole game. This is a really important thing. This is a really good thing. They try something in the game to see what players think about it, and then they add it because they know how to listen to players. It didn't stop here. 1.4 had a lot of good things, like using double of your stamina, adding a lot of
I really like that. That's I love the fact that we get to use double stamina to get through things quicker. Because it's not quite sweeps, but it's almost there. Again, I'll be critical, and I'm critical of Wuthering Waves plenty. But when it comes to like listening, it's hard to criticize Kuro on that sort of stuff. Because I think that's one thing that Kuro really do well. They're definitely, even if they don't implement the things that you want, and everybody's always going to have a thing where, well, they didn't listen to me. But I think in general, they're really good at listening to the overwhelming majority of the fan base and trying to adapt the game to them as much as possible. And I suppose maybe even sometimes to the detriment, some could argue, with some of the stuff that happened in the closed beta in regards to the story. But it's in the past now, isn't it? It's done. So, I guess it could be seen as a negative sometimes.
Of other quality of life changes that makes the game way more fun and has way less overwhelming things to do. All of that together is still mixed with a lot of generosity from the game. The game was nominated for the best mobile game of the year in the Game Awards, and what they did was, on the day of nomination, they just gave 1,000 asteroids, which takes me again to the dev.
It's like, bro, if they win, it's like, good day. It should be a good day.
The game has its problems. The devs go ahead and acknowledge it, even with video. And they say, yes, the game has its problem. We are still not happy with the current situation of the game. We want it to get better. And this makes players even more excited about the game. And just after the 1.4, they just dropped the announcement for 2.0. They even
theory crafting video coming soon regarding Seraphim, potentially. Obviously, he'd start doing some research and build out the script, but that video's kind of started today. I kind of outlined it a little bit and started the first paragraph and then quit.
Is that this version is going to be way bigger than 1.4. It's going to change the game forever. Not only that, they also said that the game is coming to PS5 at the start of 2025. So all of that spiked the popularity of Wuthering Waves even more and made players really like the game even more. They are hardworking. We are seeing that they're making
how many, because don't get me wrong, there's Kuro bots and there's Hoyo Shields, but how many of the people who are actively, openly negative, well, I suppose it depends on what they do, about Wuthering Waves, do you think are going to either potentially ease a little bit in the view to Wuthering Waves or potentially even try Wuthering Waves for 2.0? Do you think it's going to be that much of a big game changer? I hope it is, because there's plenty of things I'd like to see in the game. Please add mini games. Yes, anybody knows me, fucking give me that. This game lacks that massively. I'm a big fan of little things like that. You know, just give me some little abstract mini games where I can spend 10, 20 minutes here and there doing stuff that I don't even care if I get rewards for them, that I could just waste a bit of time on. The game lacks that. There's no content in the game outside of combat, really, in regards to events. I know we've got like the little racing stuff and that, but like, we really haven't, like, I was hoping we'd do a lot more with the 2D platforming. Well, I say it's 2D, it's 3D, it's like 2.5D, isn't it? I know we kind of did it in 1.3 with going up the towers. Why ain't we seeing more of that? You know, like, we've saw it in that Project Utopia 2/3 that they're going to lean into that. I want to see some of that sort of stuff as well. So hopefully we'll see some of that as well in the game.
A better product every single version. But then people
can still hate on him.
Revenue of the game and say, yeah, the revenue isn't like Genshin Impact or Honkai
For me,
Star
isn't my
Rail.
thing because I don't like single player. That's fair, man. That's fair. Hey, you know what? Even if you like single player games and you like single player anime action games and you don't like WoW, I don't judge you. I'm not one of those people that's just like, you know, I'm not going to be like that guy that's going to be like, well, I've got to try and prove to you that if you just look at it this way or you see it in this regard, you're going to like it. Because at the end of the day, it is what it is, isn't it? You know what I mean? That's why when people say that, like, they just prefer Genshin over this, it's like, okay, that makes sense. I get it. Not for me, but I totally get it. So I can totally understand that. It made the game better, but not complete game changer. Yeah, probably, yeah. You're probably right there. I think we're probably overestimating what it's going to be as well. You know, that happens a lot, doesn't it? Like I said, 294k people still lose sleep if they won't hate on We Were Daily. Have you seen the new Nikkei Christmas? No, I haven't, no.
About the revenue, if we can survive and make the product and market the product and have some profit from it. We don't have to make $1 billion to make a good project. And also, if this proves something, is that the game, you don't even need to spend like thousands of dollars to have fun. The game is keeping on giving players so much free stuff, so much free characters, and the content of the game is not overwhelming and more fun to play as a free-to-play or low spender. So that's actually a flex. And with all of that, they are still making millions of dollars, by the way. Now that I compare this game with other live service games, Wuthering Waves is really a wake-up call. A lot of other games, a lot of other live service games, they are not doing anything. They are not changing the game. They are not listening. Of course,
That's true. I think there's a lot of live service games that are doing a lot of stuff though. You know, I even looked at something like Deadlock. You know, you got to get in that by being invited. Like I've been playing that. I ain't played it for a bit now actually. That's a game that's like it's a MOBA basically, but it's a MOBA a bit different. Like that game's fucking awesome. That's constantly getting changes added to the game, improving the game. The custom stuff that's getting implemented into the game, the mod aspect of the game, like it's just massive implementations of positive changes constantly. I think in the gacha space they're doing really good stuff, but I'm not saying they're doing stuff the best. But yeah, there's some really good live services out there, and I know he's not saying that, but I'm just saying there's some companies doing some really good stuff.
Of course, there's exceptions. Developers need to learn from Kuro Games and how to listen to players and how to make the players happy even after the rage, even after criticizing your game. You can regain players if the game is good. Simply, you just listen to them. And also,
I mean, the biggest example of that is probably No Man's Sky. I think Rainbow Six Siege was a really good example of that. Of a game, two games that launched, were in a really bad state, but gained back the players and some with their constant improvements, quality of life updates, and just adding content constantly, weren't they? Now, I know Siege sometimes has its points where it's not in the best place, but that game launched and wasn't in a great place and then became massive. No Man's Sky, now probably with their own problem because they lied a lot. And then launched to really have critical problems, lacking a lot of stuff. And then you look at the game now, insane what they've added to the game. It took them 8 years, but they've continually added stuff to the game and improved it, which it's quite rare in games. Usually if a game launches and it's not in the right spot, a lot of the time it just kind of gets left to the wayside, doesn't it? So it's always good to see a company continue to want to improve and make something better.
So be creative and not listen too
Cyberpunk
much,
as well, yeah.
and you will get a good combination. But it's so different between companies, especially if the company is made of gamers, people that play their own game so they can improve it. And that is the thing that should happen, and that is the thing that's happening with Wuthering Waves. I would like to see the actual criticism of the game in the comments or on other video ideas if you guys like it. And if you like my content, if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe. And yeah, that was the video. Bye bye.
Hi man, I like Steel. Yeah, it was a good video. It was a good video. I agree with a lot of what he says there. Actually, if you haven't as well, guys, check out Steel. Show him some love. Yeah, a good developer, I think, all around. Not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but definitely a good actor in the space, in my opinion.